Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 331 of the Super Speedway podcast, recorded Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. I'm your host, Erik Young, and I am not joined, as always, tonight by my co-host, James Cush. Unfortunately, we mentioned last episode, which was 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, whatever the heck it was. James is off this week. It's his annual vacation. So you are stuck with me today, whenever you're listening to this. Kind of a rough week for James not to be here because there's plenty to discuss. I'll give you a little insight into my situation right now. So I'm off this week, actually, from work. So I'm hanging out here at the house in the studio. Nobody's here today, as I'm recording this at 3:10 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon. Planned to record Tuesday, but pushed it back because of the Richmond situation to see if we got some sort of penalty announcement before I recorded. And like I said, it's 3:00, Wednesday. It's time to get this episode in the books. So I am recording in the middle of the day. The studio is open. Usually it's not. So since nobody's here, but the dog's available. He's been quiet. Usually he sleeps through the day. So we'll see if he makes an appearance on the podcast today or not. But otherwise, just kind of chilling here at home, waiting for some news. I've got the old Twitter loaded up on the second screen next to me here in hopes of some sort of announcement coming as I'm recording this podcast. Otherwise, I guess we'll discuss whatever penalties comes out of Richmond next week. But I've been refreshing Twitter, I don't know, about 18 million times over the past 2 days, waiting to see what happens. I got a lot of thoughts on the whole deal. But we shall see what NASCAR decides to come down with after Richmond this weekend. Of course, Michigan International Speedway this upcoming weekend. That's one of the reasons I'm recording today and not pushing to Thursday. I'll be heading down to Ann Arbor tomorrow to my hotel room, and then be commuting back and forth from Ann Arbor to Brooklyn, Michigan for the race weekend and MIS Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hopefully weather's good this year. We rained out and ran on Monday last year. I'm looking at the forecast right now, and well, it's, I'll be in town for NASCAR, and NASCAR's in town, so it's going to be wet because that's just how it works. So, so I'll be down there all weekend. There'll be plenty of coverage from Michigan International Speedway. Lots of video stuff. I'll point you in the direction of YouTube for that. It'll also be on our website, thesuperspeedway.com, so you'll see updates there. I'm trying to remember I'm doing this live because I don't prepare in advance ever, just to make sure that I'm giving you the right channel for YouTube. It's going to be, there we go. It is youtube.com/Erik8199 is the channel to find YouTube videos that will be uploaded. They'll be on Twitter as well, at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. They'll be, like I said, on the website as well. So plenty of that stuff. Bullpens will be Saturday with the drivers. So there'll be a bunch of stuff there. Maybe some stuff Friday with Xfinity, hard to say. And then, of course, follow-up stuff from the race, all races this weekend. Not sure if I'll do anything for the ARCA race on Friday night, but certainly Saturday with the Xfinity Series and Sunday for the Cup Series at Michigan International Speedway. Those updates will all be online as we go. So, let's get this thing rolling. The Cookout 400 Richmond International Raceway this weekend, or actually it's Richmond Raceway now. Sorry, I screw that up every time. Not much happened there. Pretty quiet race. Not much to talk about. Typical uneventful Michigan or Richmond race, right? Or not. So let's start first. I'm going to hit on the option tires really quick, just because most of the discussion all week has been about the Austin Dillon finish. I'll talk about that here in a moment, give you my thoughts on it, and then we'll revisit later in the episode if a penalty is announced before we're done recording. But the option tire, we had an option tire this week. We had a hard tire, a yellow tire, and then which we called it the prime tire, and then we had the option tire, which was a red, softer tire, and the teams had two sets of the option tires ready to go, however they saw fit. A lot of talk going into it was that most of the teams were going to save them for the end of the final stage. And so it kind of looked like, well, we're going to have an option for strategy, but nobody's really going to do anything with it. And then in the second stage, we saw Daniel Suarez give it a shot. Daniel Suarez and Michael McDowell, but Daniel Suarez was the most notable. Throws the option tires on and comes through the field and takes over the lead. And we realized real quick that the option tires are a big deal. Definitely a lot more grip. They definitely fell off about 35, 40 laps into a run. Kind of what NASCAR said they were going to do. It kind of really worked exactly as it was advertised. It was a perfect implementation of it. A lot of drivers said going into the race that the hard tires were super hard. I think, was it Kyle Busch, I think, said they're hockey pucks. So obviously any softer tire is going to be an improvement in that situation. But we saw Suarez come through the field, ends up getting the lead. And then you start wondering, how is this going to work out for us going forward? Are we going to see some strategy changes? I was a little disappointed with fewer drivers taking advantage of it in the middle of the race. I think there's certainly an opportunity to be gained for drivers that were back in the pack to make a run. Of course, Kyle Busch did throw them on also to try and get their lap back. They failed just by one position. But after having pit road issues with the 8 team. So interesting take. And then, of course, the third stage, most of the teams threw them on to start the stage. And then when we got the green, white checker at the end, any teams that had them left threw them on. And the teams that didn't, well, they sucked because they went backwards really quick, which is pretty much what we saw all night when people had the non-option tire on, had the prime tire on versus option tires. It just didn't work out for them. So, I mean, my take on this, it did exactly what we wanted it to do, exactly what NASCAR said they wanted it to do. I don't know, man. It's cool to have the option, and obviously, depending on how things play, it becomes a deal or it doesn't. Without that green, white checker at the end, most of the teams have an option tire sitting in the pit box still that they never use throughout the whole race. So, I don't know. I don't really kind of feel like, why don't we just run the option tire? Isn't that just our tire? Do we really need choices of tires? Just run that tire that falls off that you have to manage and see what happens. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised to see these back at Phoenix, potentially Martinsville and Phoenix at the end of the season. I don't know if NASCAR is going to make a change like that in the middle of the playoffs, but you got to imagine that they gave us this tire now as an experiment before the playoffs to decide whether they can use it in the playoffs or not. So I would not be surprised to see the option again. But I think, in my opinion, I'd say just give us one tire, but make it the soft tire. Like, I don't get this hard tire stuff. Like, we've seen multiple times this year that a softer tire is better. And yet we still have to bring these hard tires. It's like Goodyear's still too scared to really pull the trigger and make the change intentionally. So I don't know. Really like to see something like that. I don't think the hard tire is necessary at all. I don't think the option's necessary. I think these guys, once they figure it out, everybody runs the same strategy and it just doesn't matter. So it was nice to be able to see someone like Suarez jump on an alternate strategy, make some hay as a result. Of course, it cost him in the end. I'm looking at the results here. Where the heck did Suarez end up? Yeah, I know he went backwards. 10th place. So he got a 10th place finish out of it, but just was nothing on that last restart because he didn't have the option tires left. So I don't know. I think it was a success. I don't feel like it's necessary to keep doing it, though. Let's just give softer tires and just stick with that. That's my solution. So, well, there you go. So that's the option tire. That was pretty much the story of the race. Up until 2 laps to go when Ricky Stenhouse Jr. decided to use Ryan Preece as a steering wheel and drive straight through him, or a brake pedal, I guess. Drive right through him into turn 1. wrecking Preece, wrecking Stenhouse, bringing out the caution. What in the world, man? These guys weren't even racing for position. I don't get it. Yet another example of people who are completely irrelevant to the race, affecting the end of the race. Austin Dillon's on his way to a win, got a 3-second lead, and now we got a pit stop. We got option tires. We got a green-white checker, all because two bozos were fighting over real estate, racing for 87th. It's Stenhouse has made plenty of questionable decisions this year. Preece, pretty much irrelevant at this point. Come on, guys. Get out of the way. Let the leaders race. Happened right in front of the leaders, too. Certainly could have caught some of them up. Just a stupid move, in my opinion. But as a result, we had the pits. Austin Dillon's pit crew has a great pit stop, puts him out front on the restart, picks the inside line opposite Joey Logano. And if you don't know what happened to this point, by this point, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast, because you're out of the loop, man. Green white checker, obviously Joey Logano gets the lead. Has the race won. It's over. Dillon blew it. Didn't get the restart he needed. And Dillon said it was the option tire. They were too tight on the option tire. Couldn't keep up with it. Just weren't as good. Weren't as good as they were on the prime tire. And heading into turn 3, coming down to take the checkered flag, Austin Dillon never lifts, slams in the back of Joey Logano, spins him out, comes down the track, takes Denny Hamlin, right hooks him into the wall. Both of them wreck, and Austin Dillon gets himself a win. I believe it's his 5th win in the Cup Series. That is correct. 5th win in 395 Cup Series races, and locks himself theoretically into the playoffs with a last lap wreck fest to get himself in. And I've gone back and forth on this so many times since Sunday night. First of all, I didn't want to see Joey Logano win the race. Certainly wanted to see Austin Dillon win it. I love, Team Chaos here. I wanted to see the shakeup. I wanted to see the guy outside make it in. And I just, Dillon deserved that win. RCR struggled so much this season between him and Kyle Busch. It was nice to see them run well. He legit had the race-winning car and then had it taken away from him because of a silly crash. So I was happy to see him get the win. But man, the way he did it, depending on what time of the day it's been since Sunday, I could have gone either way on this thing. It'd be interesting to see which way NASCAR rules on it, hopefully today. But I'm disappointed James isn't here, because I know we're on opposite ends of this. And so let me clarify. I think the issue that I have, I really don't have an issue with what Austin Dillon did to Joey Logano. Was it a dirty move? Yes. 100% dirty move. Was it exactly what NASCAR has created with this system, the win and you're in system? Yes, this is the Game 7 moment. This is the walk-off. This is what NASCAR made the current playoffs for, is this exact sort of thing. And all you got to do is go back to, 96 at Bristol and play the Earnhardt video of him spinning Terry Labonte out next to the Austin Dillon video of him spinning Joey Logano out. And it is the same wreck. It is the same thing. This 3-car has done it before. And Joey's done it before. Joey did it 2 years ago at Darlington to William Byron. The only difference is that Darlington's a skinny track, and Byron ran out of space before he spun and hit the wall. Otherwise, he'd have been going around just like Joey Logano did in this one. Again, dirty move? Yeah, heck yeah. But season's on the line, 32nd in points, no chance to get in the playoffs without the win, haven't even sniffed the front of the field all season long. Hell yeah, you make that choice. Yeah, you drive in there and you take him out. That was the great move. The problem is he wrecked 2 people on the way to the line. And I think the issue with Denny Hamlin is a bigger issue. Obviously, right hooks, man, we've seen right hooks penalized. We've seen suspensions the past couple of years. That is pretty much, interesting. RCR posts were not done yet on Twitter 5 minutes ago. Not sure yet. There's still no penalty announcement. Maybe they've seen it already. But, so right hooks have historically been the line. You don't cross that line. And Austin certainly right hooked Denny. Denny hit the wall a ton. Now, looking at the replay, I think anybody could argue that it wasn't intentional, potentially. That Dillon was just trying to steer, first of all, the shortest direction in the line, which is towards the apron. He already was slowed down from getting around Logano, so he doesn't have the same push out to the wall like everybody does coming out of turn 4. So he's just going to hammer down and go as straight as possible to the line. Also, he's trying to avoid Logano, so he's already turning tighter than he normally would. And Hamlin happens to be there. I'm not stupid, though, and I think the SMT data shows that we've seen that on social. I mean, he turned left pretty hard. I think he's trying to hook Hamlin. I don't know. I mean, in that instance, it happened so quickly. I don't think he's necessarily trying to wreck Denny. He's trying to make contact and do whatever he can to not to win the race. I don't think there was any thought as to wreck or not, or what right hook, left hook, rub side by side. There's no thought process there. It's just just flail, whatever you got to do to get it. But if there's going to be a penalty from it, then I think it comes from 2 instances of contact coming to the line, as well as the right hook on Denny. I don't think anything that happened with Joey Logano is punishable, honestly. I mean, sure, this historically in other series has been penalized. We saw it at Hickory a couple weeks ago with the Cars Tour, and Dale Jr. was quick to point, or actually Kevin Harvick was quick to point that out this week, that they penalized the guy who did it. And, look, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with doing that. We just have to do that every time. It's the consistency thing here. If NASCAR wants to change their mind and start penalizing for that, then sure, yeah, let's keep doing it. But they need to do it every time and for every driver. So I don't know. Honestly, no matter what the penalty report says, no matter what decision NASCAR made on a Sunday, whatever the final decision is, I'm really okay with it, because on one hand, I think that Dillon certainly could be penalized for it, and I couldn't have an argument against that. But on the other note, NASCAR is also not penalized for this sort of thing, so I could see not penalizing for it as well. It's certainly, if you want to get rid of this, the only way to penalize Austin Dillon in this instance, to stop this from happening, is to take away his playoff eligibility. Because no matter what, you could hit him with $1 million fine, and it don't matter because he's in the playoffs. You could start him, 200 points down in the playoffs. No possible chance he finishes anywhere but 16th. He still finishes 16th versus 32nd or worse in the points. So no matter what happens, unless they take away the playoff eligibility, Austin Dillon wins in this situation. Period. It's all there is to it. So if you really want to stop this from happening, do you really want to stop this from happening? But if you want to stop this from happening, you got to take away all the playoff eligibility. He can keep the win, but take him out of the playoffs. I don't know that NASCAR is going to do that. I'll be surprised. However, here it is, 2 days or 24 hours, more than 24 hours after we expected the penalty report to come out to begin with. It's Wednesday from a Sunday race where the Cars Tour made a decision on this in 3 minutes, if that, when they made their decision at Hickory, and yet NASCAR is here taking multiple days to make the decision. So I don't know. I don't know if the time here is a good sign for Dillon or a bad sign. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully before we're done recording, we'll get a result. That being said, I think Joey Logano gets a penalty, and I think Joey Logano should be penalized for his burnout, reckless driving down pit road after the wreck. I don't blame Joey Logano for being mad. I'd be PO'd as well. He had every right to be upset, but to go tearing through pit road when there's people on pit road, that is the dumbest thing you can do. And I wouldn't be first. They're not going to, I don't think they'll suspend him, but if they park Joey Logano for a week, I would be totally okay with that because he shouldn't be doing that. No, all those people shouldn't be on pit road, but they are. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if that changes this week at Michigan. Wouldn't be surprised if it changes going forward, but you can't do that. NASCAR has long held that you can't be pulling stuff with your car on pit road after a race, that you're going to get penalized for it. So Joey's going to get penalized. I think Joey's going to have a lighter wallet. And, you know, if Austin gets nothing, it's going to be a pretty big slap in the face to Joey Logano. But as they say in hockey, the guy who retaliates is the one who gets the penalty. So you should have just played it cool, come down pit road and spout it off to the media as he did anyway. So I will say, if you're Austin Dillon and you could choose two guys to wreck for the finish, you couldn't pick two better guys. There's nobody more hated in NASCAR right now than Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano. I mean, that was perfect. If you want to get the fan base on your side, that's the way to do it. Imagine if Chase Elliott was one of those cars that he wrecked coming in the line. That would have been something. But yeah, I think Austin helped himself there by taking out guys that nobody likes. Maybe if he hit Bubba on the way too, they'd have been really excited. But yeah, so as of right now, Austin Dillon's your winner and then the playoffs. So we'll see what happens. Denny Hamlin still gets a second place finish. I think that had to do with when the caution came out. Interestingly enough, Denny could have won the race still, depending on when the caution flag flew. But it flew at the right time for Dillon. And Denny finishes second. Tyler Reddick gets a third place finish. Gave Dillon a little bump going into turn one. And then Bubba Wallace finishes fourth. So both 23-11 and Denny Hamlin, second through fourth. Ross Chastain with his see-through car comes home in fifth. We mentioned Daniel Suarez ends up falling back to 10th after a good run. Led 93 laps on the day. Of course, Denny Hamlin led 124. Not surprising at a track that Denny Hamlin excels at. Christopher Bell's probably the one to really talk about. 122 laps led. Had a speeding penalty that kind of took him out of this race. He ends up finishing sixth. But another race that Bell could have won pretty easily. And he ends up, they make a mistake again. So between car issues and pit issues and driver issues, it just can't seem to finish. But first in stage one, second in stage two, comes out with 50 points out of the day, tied Austin Dillon in points. Denny Hamlin gets 52 points, so Denny gets the most. So good day for Bell regardless. And I guess it doesn't matter at this point. So yeah. So there you go. That's the results from Richmond Raceway. Oh, one more to mention too. Martin Truex Jr. Last place finish for him, 37th. Engine issues. Bummer for those guys. Just came out of nowhere, and another Toyota engine issue. So only him. Didn't happen to the other cars. So it's good, but rough day for Martin in his final season. Certainly at one of his favorite racetracks. So that's your result at Richmond Raceway. I will say, you know, without the shenanigans at the end, probably the best Richmond race we've seen in a decade. Likely because of the tires. Obviously, the end of the race certainly amped things up and made it, you know, the action track once again. Brought us some excitement. And again, if NASCAR is going to reward for that, hey, they got what they wanted. It's just a matter of whether they want to stand for that and let that continue to happen. So, like I said, fifth victory for Austin Dillon, 395 Cup Series races. Carson Hocevar, highest finishing rookie in this one, gets an 8th place finish. And yeah, there you go. There's your results from Richmond Raceway. Interesting race for sure, to say the least. The Craftsman Truck Series was also in action on Saturday evening at Richmond Raceway. Not Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski. I was looking at the points sheet. Ty Majeski gets his second win in a row, coming off of Indianapolis. Wins this one, 70 laps led on the day. Real strong performance for those guys. Definitely looked like the car to beat, despite Eckes having a great run as well. 64 laps led for Christian Eckes. Grant Enfinger led 98 laps. It's a good day for him as well. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on this race. I don't have a whole lot to talk about here. But Ty Majeski certainly making himself a favorite heading into the playoffs, which start now for the Craftsman Truck Series. Locked us in with our final 10 for the playoffs. Right now, looking on the outside, looking into the round of 8. Ben Rhodes and Daniel Dye in 9th and 10th in the playoffs. Of course, Corey Heim leading the points right now for the Truck Series, with Christian Eckes behind him, Ty Majeski, Nick Sanchez, Rajah Caruth, Grant Enfinger, Tyler Ankrum, and Taylor Gray. Those are your 10 drivers in the playoffs for the Craftsman Truck Series right now. There you go. Craftsman Truck Series heads to the Milwaukee Mile on August 25th to begin their round of 8. Then they head to Bristol Motor Speedway September 19th and Kansas Speedway September 27th. Those are your 3 races in the round of 10 for the Craftsman Truck Series. Had a couple weeks off thanks to the Olympics. Fortunately, not a whole lot of news broke during that time. I'm kidding, of course. There is tons of it. And it kicked off right away, honestly. Not too long after the race in Indianapolis, we found out that Corey LaJoie is out at Spire Motorsports. After some big talk from Corey and some big moments with his run-in with Kyle Busch, Corey LaJoie announced not returning for 2025. We don't know yet who the 7-car driver will be. We've heard rumors. One of those rumors that I heard was Erik Jones potentially jumping over there from Legacy, but we found out today that's not going to happen as he signed a multi-year extension with Legacy Motor Club to remain in the 43 cars, so he will not be going to Spire Motorsports in the 7-car. Obviously, a lot of people immediately thought Kyle Busch potentially heading there, even though he's got another year on his contract at RCR. Certainly, Spire's got money. They could buy him out. Kyle's got the relationship with Spire already. He runs their truck. And he sold his Truck Series team to them. How fitting would it be for him to go become a part of the organization that now owns his truck team? But Richard's not going to let him go. So unless there's some big money to put up or something, I don't think Kyle Busch is going anywhere. So that's more than likely not going to happen. Heard a lot of rumors about Justin Haley, despite the fact that Haley said he's staying where he's at Rick Ware Racing. He seems to be one of the prime candidates for this ride. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Sam Mayer also mentioned for this one. We'll find out, hopefully sooner than later, who's going to be in that ride. But it will not be Corey LaJoie, unfortunately for Corey. No idea at this point what his plans will be for 2025. Speaking of driver announcements, we got an announcement for the number 50 car at 2311 at Watkins Glen. Juan Pablo Montoya will come back to NASCAR racing and make the start at Watkins Glen. 50th anniversary. Sorry, never mind. I'm reading a press release as I'm doing this. Again, why would I prepare ahead of time? I've only had, several days to do this. So he'll drive the 50 Mobile One Toyota Camry for 2311, September 15th, Watkins Glen. It'll be the third and final event for the number 50 Camry, which competed twice other times in this season. I'm looking forward to getting back in a cup car and racing at Watkins Glen, a track I really enjoy and had the chance to experience earlier in my career, said Montoya. He's honored to celebrate the Mobile One team's remarkable legacy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, PR, BS. So Juan Pablo Montoya makes his return to the Cup Series. That's an interesting pick. We'll be watching that as it comes about. So congrats to Juan Pablo Montoya on getting another start in the Cup Series. Didn't have that one on my bingo card this year, that's for sure. Chris Sherwood will serve as Christopher Bell's crew chief until Adam Stevens is able to return. Adam Stevens injured both his knees during the off week. I'm trying to remember. I believe it had something to do with a slip and slide, if I remember correctly, and trying to one up his kids. So yeah, Adam Stevens will be remote. He was remote this past weekend. And Chris Sherwood will serve in the duties above the box for Christopher Bell until Adam Stevens is able to make his return. Bristol Motor Speedway, big announcement this week. They're not putting dirt down on the track anymore, and they don't have a football game there anymore. So, hey, let's pick another sport. Let's play some baseball at Bristol Motor Speedway. The Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves will play a baseball game next season, regular season game at Bristol Motor Speedway. Cool, I guess. Good at Bristol for finding interesting things to do, trying to set attendance records. They've got a great facility there that is, it's a stadium essentially, and they're finding ways to put stadium sports inside. It probably, I'm sure it will draw a lot of people. But let's see, sold out MLB game at Bristol Motor Speedway would likely set an attendance record for the sport. The largest crowd for an MLB game was a 2008 exhibition match between the Boston Red Sox and Los Angeles Dodgers at the LA Coliseum. That was in front of a crowd of 115,300. The only time that the Baseball Hall of Fame has said that the baseball crowd has exceeded 100,000. So certainly could beat that at Bristol. I don't think it's going to be a great ticket to watch. I guess unless you get one of those close seats that are down by the field. But to be there might be pretty cool. I don't know if baseball can draw that crowd anymore or not. We'll see, I guess. But good on Bristol for trying stuff. It's cool to see their innovation. Amazing what you can do when you're not burying the track in dirt every year. So good on them. We'll wish them luck and go Braves, I guess, on this one. So another driver announcement. We got a driver for the number 88 at Junior Motorsports in 2025. Connor Zilich will drive that car full time next season. Connor's 18 years old now. He's actually making his big track debut this weekend in the ARCA Menard Series at Michigan International Speedway on Friday. It'll be first time on a big track. He's done pretty well in the ARCA Series so far this year. And certainly a name that everybody is calling the next big thing. You can't be sliced bread because that's Joey, but a lot of high expectations for Connor Zilich. He was on the Dale Jr. Download this week, talking about those expectations and blocking them out. So yeah, I'm checking Twitter again, but nothing yet. So great for Connor Zilich. Lot of history still to be written here, but this kid is pretty good. He's been impressive to watch. Got to watch him in Indianapolis Raceway Park in the ARCA Series. I'm going to get to watch him this weekend at MIS. He's made one Truck Series start, so, two now at this point, but there's still really high expectations for this kid. So couldn't pick a better ride to be in. A lot of attention on that 88 car, certainly, but driving for Junior Motorsports in the Xfinity Series, short of going to JGR, it's about the best option you can have. So if he can do it, that's going to be the car he does it in. So good on Connor Zilich, good on Dale Jr. for picking him up. He's a Trackhouse development driver as well. So deal with them. Pretty cool for Connor Zilich. Good opportunity for him. We'll be very interested to see what happens next season for Connor Zilich in the Junior Motorsports car. NASCAR updated its oval wet weather procedures during the off weeks. Basically, you can do what you want. Tire changes will be permitted. You can change wets for wets. You can manage how you'll use your wet tire allotment. You can stay out on the track, gain positions in relation to those who enter pit road. Basically, what we've got on road courses we'll have on ovals now. So good to see. I figured this was coming. I get that everybody was upset that they didn't have this option earlier this year, but I guess credit NASCAR for being cautious leading into it, making sure everything's right before they do it. It's a big step. You got to think we've only relatively been racing in the rain for a very short period of time. We did it a little while back in the Xfinity Series, and then it went away for a little while. And then we've brought it back since, especially with adding all the road courses we have. But the wet weather on ovals is brand new. there's still a lot of learning that's been happening, and it's not something you can just go test easily. Yeah, you can wet down a track with a hose, but it's not the same as running in the rain, and every rainstorm is different. Every situation is different. So I guess I'd rather NASCAR be cautious than send everybody down into the corner or send everybody down pit road on a wet track with wet tires and no grip. And I think it was the right move. So now things kind of line up with the both, and we'll go from there. I think that's what we got for wet weather at this point. So good on NASCAR for making that choice now and clearing that up for the remaining wet weather eligible races this season going forward. Wouldn't it be something? I don't know. Is Phoenix a wet weather track? I can't remember. Wouldn't it be something if the championship race was decided on wet weather tires? That'd be interesting. I mentioned Erik Jones signing a multi-year contract with Legacy Motor Club. Daniel Suarez also signed an extension to his contract with Trackhouse Racing. 1 year deal for Daniel Suarez. So a little bit more pressure there to get things done. But signs another year, 5th year for Daniel Suarez with Trackhouse Racing. Certainly some of his performances this season have led to that. So good on him. And that's your news. At this point, I look over here and check Twitter once again. Every time somebody mentions the word penalty in their tweet, I get a little excited, but no, still nothing. Come on, NASCAR. Let's see. It's 3:46 p.m. right now as I'm recording this. So they'll probably announce it immediately after I stop recording this episode. So checkered flags and black flags this week. I don't have a checkered flag, I don't think. Didn't put a lot. I'm trying to think if there's anything really worth calling out here and really giving props to this week. I don't really have anything. Yeah, we're just going to skip checkered flags. We'll go to black flags. And speaking of Twitter, I'm going to throw my black flag at them. Let me explain. So heading into Michigan International Speedway this weekend, I like to live tweet the races from the press box when I'm at the track. And, when you're home and whatever, you're tweeting along with a race. It's not a big deal, but at the track, there's a lot of information. You're tweeting live versus slightly delayed on television when you're watching on television. So I like to use what used to be TweetDeck. It's now X Pro. But you have to pay Twitter a subscription to do that. I think if you go monthly, it's like $8 a month. So it's not a big deal. I only usually do it the month of August and then unsubscribe. So today I'm deciding, I'm going to get things ready to go. I'm doing the podcast right now. I want to watch the feed live versus having to click refresh. So let me resubscribe to Twitter and get my X Pro up and running. So I have that rolling and ready to go for the weekend. So I'm not trying to deal with it at the track. So I have 2 Twitter accounts. I have a personal Twitter account. Well, it used to be a work Twitter account / personal account / I really don't use it anymore. Occasionally check news stuff. And if I want to go on Twitter and not look at NASCAR stuff, which is pretty rare. And then I have my NASCAR Twitter account at @TSuperSpeedway, which is the main account that I use anymore. Use it exclusively for NASCAR stuff. I don't use it a ton, but I check it throughout the week. That's the one I wanted to subscribe with. So I go in and I double check. It's like, okay, I got each account under a different email address. I log into Twitter Pro. Well, I log into my NASCAR account. I go to Twitter Pro, click subscribe. It asks me to put my information in, make sure the email address is the right one for that account, put all my information in, click subscribe, load Twitter Pro, and it loads my freaking personal account. So I subscribe to the personal account. So then I have to go back in and re-log in to the other account, which was already logged in the first place, and subscribe again. So Twitter got $19 from me today because they're jerks. So, yeah. So, or 16. Sorry, 16. I can't do math. Yeah. So I subscribed on both accounts. So I'm a Twitter pro on both right now. Thanks a lot, Twitter. Didn't need it on the personal account, but I guess, well, I won't use it. But so got good Twitter this weekend, I guess, for a little extra money than what I was planning on spending. There you go. Short track corner this week. There's a lot of stuff. Obviously, we've been a couple weeks in the running for this. I'm not going to go through everything. I am going to touch on some of the JEG CRA stuff, though. We had a couple races during the NASCAR break. So let me find the page that I had up that now is not up anymore. Here we go. So Cody Coughlin returned to the series for a couple of races. The JEG CRA series raced at Toledo Speedway. Back on, let's see, what the heck date was that? I don't even have it here. Anyway, late July. It was after the NASCAR weekend. Cody Coughlin gets the win there. The first time in 13 years that the JEG CRA series has been at Toledo Speedway. It's my first time there ever. Pretty cool to see. Pretty neat track. A lot of history there. Higher bank than I thought it was. But it was a fun track to cover. Cody Coughlin gets the win there. And then the JEG CRA series moved over to Wasso Speedway the following weekend for the $15,000 to win Masters of the Pro 185, one of the biggest pro late model races in the country. Masters of the Pros, the length of the race increases by a lap every year. So last year was the Masters of the Pros 184. This year is 185. Next year it'll be 186. And we had an interesting battle at the end. Lots of good racing at the end, but where the heck? Dawson Sutton. I couldn't find his first name. Couldn't remember his first name. Dawson Sutton came to the series at Owasso and got the win. Got in the advantage in a late race restart. A couple cars got together. Honestly, Chase Berta was really the guy to beat in this one, and got together with Blake Rowe, which the two have had some history over the last several races. Ended up having to go to the back as a result of that. And Dawson Sutton gets the win for the JEG CRA All-Star Series. Coming up for short track racing, the ASA Series is at Owasso Speedway this weekend, August 17th for the Michigan 200. Entry list is not out for that one yet, but hoping for a big field of cars at one of the premier racetracks in Michigan now with the Owasso Speedway. And then the JEG CRA All-Stars are back in action Friday, August 23rd at Birch Run Speedway. It's the Dixie 100 out there. The Reveal the Hammer late models are running in conjunction with that as well. And then the Reveal the Hammer late models will go to Owasso Speedway the following night on August 24th on Saturday night. So there's your short track corner heading forward as we go into the Michigan International Speedway weekend. Sunday, NASCAR Cup Series in action at the 2-mile high-banked oval in the Irish Hills is the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan International Speedway. 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time is your start. NASCAR Xfinity Series also back in action this weekend after an extra week off. It is the Cabo Wabo 250 at MIS. 3:30 p.m. Eastern start for the Xfinity Series. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, of course, is off this weekend as the other two take to the track at Michigan. Also, as I mentioned, ARCA Series in action on Friday evening at Michigan International Speedway as well. Going through our picks for this weekend, James is off, so I had him send me his pick in advance. He went with the hometown boy, Brad Keselowski. Not a bad pick at all at Michigan. Brad runs well here. Has never won here, but certainly high on his bucket list to get a win at Michigan International Speedway. His own driver won it last year on Chris Buescher, so certainly could see Brad in victory lane this weekend. That would be a very exciting win. That would probably be bigger than a Daytona 500 win for Brad Keselowski. I'm going with somebody who now is in a tougher position in the playoffs, needs to win to get in. I don't think is going to wreck two guys on the way to the checkered flag to do it. He's in on points right now, but the win would solidify it. I'm going with Bubba Wallace as my pick for Michigan International Speedway this weekend. Fantasy League update. I don't really want to talk about it as usual, but I have to because James isn't here. But I forgot to make my picks again this week, which put me in 13th place. So, hey, I finished about the same as I always do. Green Eggs and Hamlin gets the win this week, 207 points. He tied with Shut Up Roger, 207. So congrats to Roger on a tie for first place. Cole Custer's Last Stand comes home in third with 200 points. Smokey come back. James gets fourth, 197. He did beat Watermelon James, who only got 101 this week. I'm starting to wonder if Watermelon James has given up on pursuing and trolling James at this point. Barron Speedway 14th, rough day for him as well. Yeah, there you go. Three-time champ, 189 in fifth place. Looking at the overall point standings, Cole Custer's Last Stand still leads. Green Eggs and Hamlin in second, just 30 points behind. Smokey Comeback, James holds strong in third place, 4,333 points. He's about 100 points out of the lead. So certainly still some opportunity there for James. I'm hanging back there in 13th as normal. So pretty much on par with what you can expect. So there you go. Let's see. One more check of the Twitters. As I said, they will probably release the statement immediately after I post this episode. If they release it before I post it, I will tag on to the end. So if it looks like there's still time remaining in this podcast, keep listening. Otherwise, if you want to hit us up on social media during the week and chat with us, you can find James at James Cush on Twitter and on Threads as well. I think he's still using Threads. I don't know. I'm at T Super Speedway on Twitter. Like I said, lots of stuff coming this week. I'll be live tweeting at least the Xfinity and Cup Series race, potentially the ARCA race as well. And lots of video, interviews, all that stuff will be coming to X. Will be coming to YouTube. Again, youtube.com/Erik8199. I don't know if that's the actual web address, but if you just look for Erik8199 on YouTube, you'll find my account there. That'll be where everything's posting there. It's also where the podcast posts if you listen to it on YouTube. So same channel. So just watch for that. Again, the website as well, thesuperspeedway.com will have updates. I'll try and post the videos there, but they'll be more than likely they'll go on Twitter first. So if you want to see them right away, that's the place to go is to check Twitter at TSuperspeedway. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Our web address, as mentioned, is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Wherever you found us today, please subscribe for new episodes each and every week. And if you go to anchor.fm/thesuperspeedway, you can leave us an audio message and we might just play it on the show. There you go. There's your Jamesless podcast for the week. James will be back next week to break down Michigan with me and all else. We'll talk more about the... here we go. Look at that. Imagine that. Yeah, they took his playoff eligibility away. Interesting. NASCAR announces Austin Dillon's win at Richmond Raceway will not count toward the NASCAR playoffs eligibility in both the driver and owner championships. NASCAR states that Dillon's finish, well, now it's going crazy. Everybody else is tweeting. Eligibility, Dillon violated its playoff eligibility rule and loses benefits of the win. So Austin Dillon gets to keep the win, but does not get that playoff berth. Wow. But big win for Bubba Wallace. That's a huge win for Bubba Wallace right there. Wow. Let me click and see. Is there anything to click on here? No, nothing at this point. Yeah, that is interesting. So breaking news right at the end of the podcast. Perfect timing, just as we're getting ready to wrap it up. So my take on it, I already said, this is the way to combat this. If NASCAR wants to stop this from happening, this is the way to do it. I can't argue with it. I could argue either direction. I could go either way because, again, as I said earlier in this episode, this is kind of what NASCAR wanted, but obviously they're showing that they're not going to tolerate it. And honestly, if you really think about it, like I've worked as a race director at a short track. I've talked about it on here before. I work for a series now as a photographer. I've followed many other series, and you can't do this on Saturday night or Friday night at your local short track. You will be penalized immediately. So honestly, NASCAR should have taken the win away. If they're going to make this decision, if this is the way they're going to go, they should have taken the win away right there on the spot and given the win to Denny Hamlin. I think I'm going to change my black flag, and I'm going to give it to NASCAR for waiting till frickin' Wednesday at 4:00 p.m. on Wednesday to make this announcement rather than making it on Sunday night when they should have. I don't care about the whole, we're going to look at everything BS. We didn't have to look at everything to determine that this was over the line or could have been over the line. I'm tired of this Wednesday announcement BS. What stretched it out? What made it take this long for the announcement? I'm sure we'll hear from Elton Sawyer. He'll probably be on Sirius tomorrow morning. Going to the track this weekend. Can't wait to hear the discussion this weekend because I'm sure there's going to be a ton of MIS over this. Certainly sets precedent, guys, that NASCAR is not going to let you do this. Don't do it at Phoenix to come to the championship. There's obviously a question as to where the line is because the line's still gray. But it's a little clearer now than it was before. Also, Joey Logano has been fined $50,000 for violating the NASCAR member code of conduct on pit road at Richmond Raceway. So Joey gets $50,000 fine, and Dillon loses playoff eligibility. So there you go. Again, I could go either way, but I'm glad NASCAR has drawn a line. And I guess the other thing comes down to NASCAR races on tracks that are slow speed and fast speed. And I don't think you can have a different rule for Richmond than you do at Talladega. So if you don't want somebody wrecking a car coming to the checkered flag at Talladega intentionally to win a race and get into the playoffs or get in the next round of the playoffs, then you got to draw the line. And this is a way to do it. So, again, I don't know why you don't just take the win away. Bob Pockers reports Dillon also docked 25 points in addition to not being able to use the win to earn a playoff spot. Dillon's spotter, Brandon Banesh, has been suspended 3 races as well for his comments, telling Dillon to wreck him. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think his words changed anything. I don't know that I'm thrilled with whenever we give penalties based on radio communication. I think all that does is draw the eventual line to not having the radios open anymore. But again, it's hard to argue against any of the penalties. I guess NASCAR still got integrity. I guess that's the biggest thing that comes from this is it might have taken them 3 days to show that, but they still have integrity and still want you to win the right way. If I was Austin Dillon, I still would have done the same thing because it was the only shot he had. He wasn't winning otherwise. So good on him for making the attempt, but didn't work out for him. Does not get the playoff berth. So again, Bubba Wallace probably the biggest winner in this because I just put him up an extra spot in the playoffs. So there you go. That's it for the podcast this week. Glad we got it in right at the end. Again, thesuperspeedway.com. Follow me on Twitter at tsuperspeedway. Watch for coverage this weekend from Michigan International Speedway. I'll be there all weekend. Lots of stuff to talk about this weekend. Obviously, lots of stuff to talk to drivers about. Sure, we'll hear tons of opinions about this. Oh, Alton Sawyer has made a statement. Has he made a statement, or is he going to make a statement? Let me check here real quick before we stop recording, because if he said something already. Oh, hold on. Okay, so NASCAR did one of their typical let's make a statement with our own media partners versus talking to all the media. So hold on a second. Let me switch the audio over here so I could play this. We're going to play this right on the podcast. The advantage to doing this live, right? Let me find the right. That is it, I believe. No, I'm screwing the settings all up for James next week. So sorry, James.
Coming alongside Elton Sawyer from NASCAR Competition with breaking news from the NASCAR Cup
This is Kim
Series.
Kuhn, by the way.
The end of the Richmond race was one of the most controversial finishes of the season, but there are penalties. Elton, what are they?
Yeah, it'll be a 25-point deduction for the driver and the owner of the 3-car, as well as that win not allowing them to be eligible for the playoffs, as well as a 3-race suspension for the spotter. And for Joey Logano's actions on pit road, there'll be a $50,000 fine for that.
So just to clarify, the 3 team gets to keep the win. It just does not qualify them for the playoffs.
Yep, absolutely. All the purse, he'll be credited for the win, gets to keep the trophy. He's just not eligible for the playoffs.
And Jeff Gordon's not in the
After
playoffs.
the race, you said NASCAR would look at all available data, including audio, video, SMT, spotter radio. What did the data show you regarding the contact between the 3-car and the 22-car that led to these penalties?
Yeah, I think in all due respect to the appeal process, we looked at this in the totality of everything that happened as you entered turn 3 and as the cars got to the start-finish line. So as we looked through all of that data, we came to the conclusion that a line had been crossed. Our sport has been based on, for many, many years, forever, on good, hard racing. Contact has been acceptable. We felt like in this case that the line was crossed.
So SMT showed intention.
In our view, that crossed the line, without a doubt. Again, our sport has been based on, strong emotions. It's been based off, win and you're in. But anything that we feel like from a sanctioning body that has crossed the line from a standpoint that compromises the integrity of our playoff format as well as our championship, we are going to get involved.
Why couldn't the call be made immediately after the race, during post-race?
Yeah, great question. The magnitude of this decision needed us to get back, get all the information, be able to work with all of our stakeholders, work with the folks in the industry, have a great deal of experience, gather all of that information, and then sit down and make a NASCAR decision, and that's what we did. Starting Sunday night, gathering the information, meeting again on Monday, as well as yesterday, and finally last night coming to a conclusion of where we landed on the penalty.
You mentioned the integrity of the sport. There could have been different penalties that were levied on the 3 team. The severity of the penalties we're seeing on the 3, was that directly to maintain the integrity of NASCAR?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is not something that NASCAR really wants to get in the middle of. For years, we've allowed our drivers, and we will continue to allow them to race. Every one of the drivers in those National Series garages, Cup level, Xfinity level, and truck level, they understand where the line is. They may ask from time to time, where is the line? I guarantee you when you walk through there and you ask them, they will know where it is. So we just felt like in this case we needed to let them know that we know where the line is as well. And this is not something that we're going to tolerate.
Okay, so let's talk about the line, because after the race you also said our sport's been a contact sport for a long time. You always hear, where is the line? And did someone cross it? The last lap was awful close to the line. Now you've made it clear they crossed the line. Does this determine where exactly the line is and set a precedent?
I think if you look at it, again, from a 30,000-foot view, we take every situation, and I know it's a little cliche, but we take every situation and we look at that individually. We don't want to take and try to go back to 1986 and what happened in turn 3 with the 11 and the 3. It's ironic that those two numbers. But you do take and look at that given situation that happened, looking at Sunday night, and again, everything that happened as they entered turn 3 until they got to the start-finish line. We took all that in totality.
Historically, there has.
That's a really good point. I forgot about the incident with Earnhardt and Waltrip, which happened at Richmond in turn 3, and Earnhardt literally right hooked Waltrip in that wreck. Of course, Earnhardt wrecked himself as well, but interesting that that's brought up here.
And a higher tolerance level for contact and the type of contact at short tracks. Richmond is a short track, but does this open the door for heavier policing of contact at Martinsville, at Bristol, and other short tracks?
I think if you look at it, the short answer would be, yeah, we're going to be on high alert. We don't want to be in the middle of this. We don't want to over officiate races, but also as stewards of the sport, the sanctioning body from time to time has to step in and kind of reset to make sure that our drivers understand, where the boundaries are. I hear that all the time. Where is the boundaries? Our goal here is to help define those boundaries. And when they go back and look and say, well, I know what is acceptable and I know what's not.
There we go. Austin Dillon not eligible for a playoff spot now going forward after as a result of the Richmond incident. Gets the win, but does not get to go onto the playoffs as a result of it. We'll still need to win to get in. So apparently the "we're not finished yet" statement from RCR, they had already known what was coming. So there you go. That's what you got. We're heading into Michigan International Speedway this weekend. Should be a very interesting weekend. I'll be back next week with James back in studio to break it all down and discuss everything that comes from Michigan International Speedway. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.